we are live, and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. And thank you for tuning in live. If you are on here live, I know that this is going to turn into a video and after I finish it, but if you're watching on the replay, thank you for being a part of my community. For those of you all who do not know me, my name is Michelle, and I go by the Ignited Teacher. And what I do here on Teaching Tip Tuesday is I help you to close learning gaps by providing you with evidence-based research math teaching tips that can be implemented in your classroom as early as the next day. So thank you. So let me, turn my phone off because it always seems to ding when I am on live. So if you are new here, leave me a comment in the comment section. Tell me where you're chatting from. What are some of your biggest issues with intervention? Because that's what we're going to be talking about all month long, about intervention. If you don't know, I'm still currently a teacher. I am teaching 8th grade math currently in the Houston area. And I teach in a school where the demographic of kids is about 80 to 90% below grade level. The demographic of kids is, it's still not off. There we go. So that's who I am. So type in the chat, tell me where you're chatting from. So if you cannot catch me live on my Teaching Tip Tuesday, no worries. I got you. You can always catch me on YouTube, and that's where I house all of my Teaching Tip Tuesdays. And I also have a playlist of my Teaching Tip Tuesday videos, and you can always hop on over there and watch them there. But so if you're already online, you might as well go ahead and hop on over there to my YouTube channel. And if you're watching me on YouTube, go ahead and give this live stream a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscription button. Hey, hi Siobhan. Oh, you're in Houston as well. Welcome. Over there, hop on over there and become a part of my YouTube community. So we're going to go ahead and hop on into our topic tonight. And the topic tonight is creating groups. If you're in, I don't know if you caught my live stream last week. I was talking about how to capture data without over testing your kids. That's one of the issues that we're having at our school, is that I feel like, and I know I'm not alone, that we over test the kids for the sake of data. And I think for some reason, the administration and a lot of administrators believe that you have to take a test to gather data. Hi, Myrna. Welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. But that's not always the case. So if you missed that live stream, you can catch that live stream. That was last week. I think it was on a Monday that I did it. I just kind of it was impromptu live, because you can get data without giving your kids a testing or always putting them on a program. I mean, that gets over. We need to go back to relying on our skills as professionals. And if you don't have the skill set, which I understand, you tap into the skill set of your colleagues. So tonight I'm going to talk about how, because when you're starting with intervention, one of the things that you must have is data. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you'll know that I talk about qualitative and quantitative data. This is the data that you use to actually to group those kids. Now, the groupings don't always stay the same, and that's what I tell teachers all the time. That grouping should change. And I do conduct interventions in 2-week cycles, because if your tier 1 instruction, that's just the core instruction for all the students, is sound, the kids should not be coming to you blank. Now, I didn't say below grade level, I said blank. Because if you're taught the tier 1 instruction, say for instance, with regrouping, subtraction with regrouping, or addition with regrouping, if you've had kids that were struggling with that, and I know that's in the lower grades, for the upper grades, for me, I know the overarching theme is to, for 8th grade, to solve equations, because they're going into Algebra 1 next year. So if your kids cannot solve equations, you have to gather data before you can actually group them. Now, here's what I am telling you. When you are conducting interventions, those interventions should be based on overarching themes at that grade level. For example, number sense at K and 1 is a foundational skill that a lot of kids need. Addition, place value, all of those things, 4th grade, fractions. You have to focus on those student expectations that are going to give you more bang for your buck. You just don't randomly select what you're going to work on. So let me go ahead and dive right into this. So let me get my pen. So when you're grouping your students, you're going to take that data, and it could be qualitative. Qualitative is basically what you're observing in the classroom. So if you're observing students that are having the same issue, you need multiple data points to support what you're saying. So that will be going back to your universal screener. That will be going back to maybe an assessment that was given to the students. But these you need multiple data points to point to where the child is struggling at. So that's where you start. So when you're grouping, and then I'm going to put groups. So here's your groups. And I do not recommend that you see those higher level kids, your tier 1 kids. You do not need to pull them in small group. And I'm going to go against what people are saying. Well, see, no, you don't need to see them, because if you have done core work in that tier 1 instruction, you should have the data that you need that supports those kids not being pulled in small group. Because most of your tier 1 kids are going to get it the first time around. Like I know, for example, I have 30 kids in a class. I know that my tier 1 kids are going to get it. And if I have 5 tier 1 kids, they're going to get it because they have the prerequisite skills for that concept. So I know that's not going to be an issue. If there's an issue with my tier 1 kids getting it, then I know that sometimes it may be me and the strategy that I chose to actually get the kids to understand it or master it within that 2-day process. So your tier 1 kids should be getting them. So when I group my students, and I'm going to tell you, I only do 20 minutes. And you're probably saying, well, why 20 minutes? Because the other 10 minutes, I send them back to their desk. And that's independent. And the reason why I started doing this, I think it was a lady that told me to do it, because our tier 2, tier 3 kids have an over reliance because sometimes they do not have the math confidence. So when you send them back to the desk, it really signifies that they are on their own and they're practicing on their own. So the 20 minutes that you actually have with the kids, you definitely want to maximize that time. This is your instruction. This is yours. This is theirs. So I'm using the wrong theirs. EIRS. This is theirs. And they have to do it independently, because to exit kids from math intervention for a skill, they have to be able to do it on their own, totally independent. So when you're thinking about groups, these are kids that have their homogeneous groups where kids are struggling with similar. Now, everybody's not going to struggle with the same stuff. They're not. So when you're putting them in groups, you want to first use your data. And if you're a math interventionist, you're going to pull their universal screener. You're going to talk to the teacher. You're going to observe the kids and look at the assessments that they have. You have to have student work. And that's the second thing. A lot of teachers want to say, well, I looked at their STAR data, their standardized tests, and I've looked at this. Well, if you don't have student work, you really can't assess students on what they're doing. You just can't. There's not any way that you can do that. So I generally have 3 groups of kids. So this is group 1, group 2, group 3. Now, if you need a group 4, I would say make that group a group that is really having some foundational issues. Okay, so like they may be your SPED kids that don't move as fast, and they go through this regression and progression cycle. So you definitely want to, this may be the SPED or 504, or depending on where they are. Because all kids that are in SPED or 504 don't struggle with math. It is the literacy piece that a lot of them struggle with. So this may be that group if you need a group 4. So group 1, when I group my students, I'm looking at what type of issues are they having? The second one is look at their literacy levels. And I know a lot of math teachers don't care about the reading, but the reading comprehension is an issue. You need to look at the kids' reading levels, because we use the comprehension, we draw conclusions, we make inferences, we make connections with the problem, which is a text connection in the reading classes. So you have to look at those reading levels. So you want kids in a class, in a group, that have similar reading levels. So say, for instance, these are all your kids that are struggling in group 1, but read on grade level or close. And then you look at their math. Okay, so group 2 may be kids that are struggling with the reading, but can get through the math with guided support in small group. Some of these may be your L's. So these are your emerging bilinguals. That's the new word, emerging bilinguals. So that may be them. And then you have this group that may have literacy issues. Because it makes a difference when a child does not read on grade level. So when I'm talking about making homogeneous groups, there are different ways that you can group the kids. There are different ways, but it's based on their data and what you know about the students. And that's why it's so important that you get to know these kids, because if you don't, you're going to have a hard time grouping them. And also what you want to look at is behavior. So if you have kids that are struggling with behavior, do not put them in a group where other kids are having behavior issues. Don't do that, because what it's going to do, you're going to find yourself constantly redirecting the children, and it's going to be a nightmare for you. It definitely is. So when you're grouping these students, make sure that they're actually homogeneous, meaning you're looking at their literacy, you're looking at their grade level. Those are homogeneous, and spread your behavior problems out. Sometimes kids that have behavior problems, they do better in small group. And you may see the kids moving. Now, are these groups set in stone? Absolutely not. So you can move groups, the kids around into different groups. I've had groups that have moved quickly. And even though they were in small group, they just did better in small group. And they moved quickly. So that was my group that I knew that we were just going to move quickly with. And I would always do them first. But some of my other kids, as they got more instruction, they were moving quickly. So I would put them in that first group to get them out of the way, because I knew that the rest of my small group time was going to be in the struggle with groups 2 and 3. So you're always going to have a group or a group of kids that are going to move fast, because one of the things is, depending on what the children are coming with and how much instruction they have missed. Sometimes our kids are tier 1 kids that have had attendance issues, and now they're labeled as an intervention kid, but they're really not an intervention kid because they just missed a lot of instruction, but can move really quickly. Some of your kids that read very well, they move quickly too, because they have the comprehension skills to learn the math once it's in a small group setting. So I'm going to do a little recap. Is start with data. When you're grouping your kids, not just data points, not just qualitative data. You have to look at both sides of the data point. Like what you see in class. If you're a math interventionist, what is the teacher saying? And you have to look at the qualitative data. It's not just one data point. It's multiple data points so that you can make a sound instructional decision for these students. The second one is gather student work. You must have student work. I mean, you can't make an instructional decision on what the kids are struggling with for a small group if you don't have student work. And the last thing, and probably one of the most important things that math interventionists and math teachers look over, are your kids' literacy levels. Get with the reading teacher and see where the kids are as far as reading, because it makes a difference when children can read versus when they cannot. So that is all I have for Teaching Tip Tuesday. But before I go, I have a Managing Difficult Classrooms course. Right now it's $97. You can find this on my website. And if you're struggling with management and you're going to do small group, you definitely need to purchase this course, because it's going to help you with putting just basic routines and procedures in place so that you can accomplish that small group goal. So that's all I have, and I hope this was informative. And Untitled Tuesday. Bye, Myrna.
This time